welcome to Gaining Experience. My name is Corey, and this is Howard. And Gaining Experience is a live show where we talk about role playing games, and it's a discussion. We're trying to learn about role playing games, be better at it. So if you have a comment, please leave it in the comment section, or if you're watching this live, chat at us and we'll respond to it live. My co-host here is the RPG. It's Howard. That stands
Hey,
for
Corey.
Role Playing Guru. Howard, you got something for the topic today?
Yeah, I'm gonna lead off first with a story. Essentially, I want to talk about cringe and role playing games, things that make people super uncomfortable. And this story comes from back when I used to play in the vampire live action role play for Mind's Eye Society, which is a part of White Wolf Games. And the story I have is essentially there was a guy, we were playing Mage the Ascension, and there was a guy playing a Verbena, which is a nature mage, and he wanted to use as a focus for all of his magic having intercourse with animals. And I didn't know that that was something he'd written on his character sheet. And we're,
Who's
role playing that we're all in my character's car. Yeah, go ahead. What?
so Mind's Eye Theater is like a world spanning organization where anybody can play these things, but there's somebody over him that has to approve this character.
Wasn't me. I was a storyteller. It's called Mind's Eye Society now. It used to be called the Camarilla, but I didn't approve that. It wasn't my fault, and I didn't know it was on his character sheet. And we're role playing the a group of characters are in my car. I am literally driving them away from a scene where we were being attacked, and he is going to help out by casting magic to defend us. And he has a wolf companion, and he role plays. Well, thankfully, didn't actually just mind it. Didn't actually pull his pants down, but then it explained what he was doing and that he was about to do something that is just so wrong. So I immediately said my character. It's like I pull the car over and I yell, "Get out!" and I point a gun at you. And I had an item card that said I had a gun, and I pointed at him, and I refused to move the car. The bad guys are chasing us. I did not care. I wanted that out of the car now.
You got to protect
Let
animals,
the bad
man.
guys take them.
Yeah, protect animals. He deserves it. If so, what? So why is this the segue?
All right, so I want to talk about in this case, there is nothing wrong with Mage the Ascension. That is not a suggested focus for your magic for any of the classes. That's not or the mage types. That was not a cringy role playing game. It was just a cringy scene because of a cringy player. So, but I want to talk today about the role playing games that can make you just wish you didn't know the people around you. And Corey, we actually do talk about these before we start. And Corey, you already have
Yeah. I'm a great actor. Like I don't know what's going on here. So every show we like to start out before we actually dive right into the topic. We like to loosen up a bit and play a little game called "I Did Not See That Coming." Woo! With the best graphic in the world.
I actually forgot about that. I was so into the conversation about the horrible role playing games.
How this game works is one person comes up with a role-playing hook and the other person puts a twist on the end of it that, might be interesting or, you didn't see it coming. Here's the twist. And then the other person goes and we go back and forth and that's the game. So I'll start.
Okay.
All right. So there is this item in Dungeons and Dragons called... What's it called? It's the Iron Bands. The Iron Bands of Bilaro.
I don't know that one.
Basically, what it does is like this little steel ball, and you say the command word, and you throw it out, and it turns into all of these iron bands, and it grabs the thing and captures it. So you run into a an angel that has been captured inside this iron bands of Belaro, and it can't get out unless you can find the owner of it and get the command word from him.
Hmm. Unfortunately, when you find the owner, you realize quickly that he is not human, but is in fact a devil, and he's willing to tell you the command word if you'll just sign some contracts with him. I'm all about warlocks. Warlocks are awesome.
Everybody's a warlock now. Everyone has to multi-class.
All right. I guess it's my turn then.
Yep.
All right. So, tell you what, Corey, let's up the ante here. Pick a genre.
Ooh, I get to pick a genre, do I?
You pick the genre. Go right ahead.
Um, you know what? Let's do the martial arts genre.
Ooh, a little kung fu action
Kung
theater.
fu, there's a couple kung fu games out there like Feng Shui. So let's see what you got.
Okay. Um, your group, because you still play in a group, so you get to your dojo to train with your class. But upon arrival, the entire dojo has been destroyed, and there's a note left for you that says to the members of X dojo, whatever your party has named it,
The Iron Claw.
the Iron Claw, because you're all anamorphic now,
Sure.
or anthropomorphic. That's the word. Um, that's a different role play game.
Different role playing game.
So, to the members of the Iron Claw Dojo, the challenge is set to avenge your honor. You will meet us at X location, and it is signed by the master of your rival dojo. And the twist.
The twist is when you get there. Excuse me, I'm being pinged. Let me get rid of that real quick. Interrupting my my live show. The twist is
When you get there,
that when you get there, the people you find aren't from the dojo you thought they were, but they're from another dojo that was also destroyed, and they blame you somehow for their dojo's destruction, and the villain is pitting you against each other.
Yeah, it would actually still work if it were if it were the dojo you expected, but they're like mad at you for having destroyed their dojo.
Oh yeah. That's why we came to destroy yours. What? What do you mean?
Or maybe they didn't even destroy yours. Maybe that's why you're both there. All right, cool. But moving on from the Kung Fu world,
Well, let's
tell us
move
what
on.
you got, Corey, because the one I got's just, it makes me hurt to think about it, so I want to put it off.
So we both researched a cringy game, and the one I'm gonna go into is called Made. Made, the role playing game where everybody plays a pretty little maid.
That's MAID,
This
not MADE. You're not being a made man in the mafia.
exactly.
It's not a Goodfellas role playing game, because I would do that. I would totally do that. In a horrible.
Well, you know
horrible
how that
attack.
works, right? You're a level 5 crook, and then you shoot up a bank, and then you're a level 50 boss. I'm told.
Hey, I'm a made man, and
That's
I
how
got
the
it going
mafia
on.
works. So Made is a Japanese role-playing game. Big surprise. And it's actually, I've heard it's popular in Japan. I don't know. I haven't gone over there.
I think that for research for the show, we need to go to Japan and see who's playing this game.
Ooh, hey. If you want us to go to Japan, you can support the show by going in the comments and clicking on the link for the Sunken Fortress RPG, adventure module for Dungeons and Dragons. $5.
We're going to need you to buy a lot of copies. Japan is far.
So the Made role-playing game, a guy went over to Japan and loves role-playing games, and there's a lot of interesting one over there. And the one he decided to come back and translate for American audiences was Made. And what you do is, of course, you play a maid, and the game master is he is the master. He plays the master of the house, who all the maids work for, and all of the maids have to gain the favor of the master. You see where this is going. This would be
Yeah,
great.
I got you.
This would be great if, like, I was the game master and I was role playing for a bunch of girls. It would be an insane ego boost, and I'm 100% for this.
Yeah, this I think that's probably its top selling point. I think there are guys that are, I'm gonna use the word lonely, and they're like, this sounds amazing. If I could find 4 to 6 women to role play this game with me, and then they buy it, and then it collects dust on their shelf because this weird thing never occurs.
So there's an
Never.
interesting aspect to this game called the stress mechanic, and basically when you're doing things that are stressful, when there's weird, awkward social situations or combat, you gain stress, and then if your stress reaches a threshold, you get a stress explosion, and you have to act out in a certain way, dictated by what's on your character sheet.
That's I don't know. That all sounds very weird.
Actually, this same mechanic is in the new Fantasy Flight Elf Legend of the Five Rings role-playing game.
Oh, really?
It's called Strife in that game, and I love it.
Another game based on Asian culture.
Ooh. So, you play
Very stressful for
maids.
Asians. That's what I'm hearing.
You play maids, and of course, you'd think that there's sex involved in this game. And yes, there's an entire part of the book that explains there's sex in this game, and he goes out of his way to say, "Oh no, it's not pornographic. It's just like, panty shots and sexual situations that aren't porn." He really this is the translator really trying to sell it to you. And all of his stuff that he puts in, he likes to say all of his sex stuff is, this is an optional rule, and this is an optional rule, and it's 100% optional. And I really think he protests way too much. I'm really sure that the original game, it's not optional. In fact, this little paragraph that I have written right there says that an earlier printing, which I have not seen, I couldn't find it, says that a lot of people had questions about this game's in the matter of the sex or the promiscuousness in it.
So people picked up a game, purchased it. It's called Maid, and it's about role playing maids for some like crazy dude. And they went, "Is there going to be some sort of inappropriate scenes in this?" Wow, you are what we call clueless.
So yeah, there's.
I'm going to say that this game has a redeeming value. I'm going to throw this out here in that if this is something you are interested in and you're playing with consenting adults who are interested in this fantasy, have that, yo. Do what you do.
Yeah, right?
I'm all for
everybody's
it.
for it, there's an entire chapter that's called Romance and Seduction. It's like 6 pages long, and it goes into great detail about it. Of course, optional, everything's optional. And
which beats the heck out of the player's handbook for D&D, which has very little on how to develop your character's personality.
And here's an interesting thing, though. There's a perversion chart. You can give your character a special perversion quality.
I'm sorry.
Yes!
I did not know there'd be a perversion chart. That's fantastic.
Here's the thing. You can be a nymphomaniac, a sadist, a masochist, a womanizer, an exhibitionist. But here's a problematic one.
Why not all of those?
Here's a problematic one. Likes them young.
Okay, yeah, that one's problematic.
This is going to be a little theme here that we're going to get into in a bit. So we're gonna dive a little deeper in why this game is really bad, even if you're a consenting adult. Because you go in here, and then we have a tragedy table. Now, if you're if there's a seduction action, being like seductions kind of works like combat in this game. So if I'm trying to seduce somebody, and they have a stress explosion, it turns into a tragedy. And the first thing on the tragedy table is attempted suicide. Yes.
Woo!
You
That's a heavy
you
one.
can you want to commit suicide because this person tried to have sex with you.
Okay.
It's we're gonna go worse here.
All right. Okay. I'm sure it gets worse. I'm gonna throw out this disclaimer real quick. This wasn't written for an American culture,
No, it was not.
so I don't know enough personally about Japanese culture to judge. But it was translated and then published over here, so therefore we get to judge the American version. And I'm
Which we
gonna
are.
judge the heck out
This
of
is the
that.
American version.
We're
So
judging,
there are
being
NPCs.
judgy.
There are
Nothing
NPCs
can
in this
stop
game.
the judge or not.
There are NPCs in this game, and I picked out just two to look at. The first is the final maid, Eve, age 10. This beautiful young girl has blonde hair and golden eyes and looks like a French doll.
I think I threw up in my mouth there. That's
She is the product of the mating of a creature often theorized but thought not to exist, a butler, and a holy maid that led to a mutation.
oh
She inherited the powers of a holy maid but also developed far greater powers. It's giggle worthy. I love this character. If there weren't seduction rules in the game,
you know what I really I've had the hardest time picturing is that there was somebody who sat and with a straight face was typing this out as he's writing this book and this character up as if this would be fully accepted and that no one should go what.
so here is the creme de la creme. This is the cringiest part of this game. Is this NPC right here, Mao, age 9. So let me tell you a little bit about Mao. She is a ghost that protects the mansion. She died here when she was 9 and is forever a 9-year-old. Mao is becoming dimly aware she's a ghost. However, she doesn't want to disappear. For some reason, she wants to stay in the world. Unlike the previous one, who just kind of talked a little bit about her background, this character has a specific part in her description, which says, where is
The
it?
words pure Lolita at the top.
Oh, pure Lolita, yeah. No, there are character types you can play. You can play a pure maid, or you can play a Lolita maid, and there's an asterisk next to them that says, "Oh, Lolitas is a type of dress, how you present yourself. It's not an underage girl." Even though this one is
except that that's totally what it means.
yeah. So if someone, this sentence is here. I gotta read this. If someone does seduce Mao, or if they seek out what used to be her bedroom, the PCs could learn of her past as outlined below. It's telling you as part of the adventure to learn about her past, seduce her.
Well, I'm not saying it wouldn't work. It seems like a legit strategy, but I don't know.
Seduce a 9-year-old, legit strat, yeah.
I'm just saying I don't know if that should be the thing that the rule book necessarily says you should absolutely have to do.
Well, it does say that you could seek out her bedroom instead, right?
And I'm just going to point out. Well, no, it says when she was 9. It doesn't say she is 9.
No, she's not 9 anymore, but she's a ghost, so she's like a 9-year-old always now. Just she still has like a 9-year-old spirit.
Can a ghost mature or age mentally?
That's the question, right?
Because that's something that I'm going to say has been for a long time. People's big complaint against Twilight was the fact that the vampire guy was, well, like 100 years old, and she was a teenager, and that makes you want to vomit. Except that he looks like a teenager, and so the question is, did he mature mentally and emotionally? If he didn't, I guess it doesn't matter. And if he did, then why is he chasing this little girl? What kind of sicko is he? And the same would be said of a ghost, which is still alive.
Well,
I
she's
guess.
a conscious being that, you know. So let me
So it
let me show
could
you one last
age and
thing.
mature.
Let me show you one last thing. In the epilogue, it says if Mao is seduced, she becomes a maid and joins the PCs. If she's not seduced, Mao vanishes and moves on to the next world. So you can get a bad end if you don't seduce this character.
Wait, which one's the bad end?
She, I guess, she hopefully moves on and to the next world.
Well, I mean, let's be fair. A ghost moving on to the next world is generally the good end. Did you ever see Ghost Whisperer?
I,
I mean, that was the whole point, was helping them
I
to move on to the next
guess.
world. The bad end would be that she's now trapped as your maid.
You're
You're the
forever made.
master.
No, this is the maid RPG. That's the highest thing you can achieve is maiddom.
Maybe this is just one of those villain-based RPGs.
Well,
Hey, sis,
speaking of a villain
Sabak
based
is a venue. I'm just saying.
speaking of a villain based RPG,
Speaking of which, all right. So uh, here's my entree to his. I'm gonna say appetizer.
sure.
Um, because while that is super cringy, oh, and I got shivers on my spine a few times. I'm a dad. I have boys and girls, and no, all of that is upsetting. But all right, so here's how I found this. By the way, I didn't go type into my computer, find me the most horrible, evil thing you can related to role playing. What I actually looked for was silly role playing games. I think, I don't remember the exact wording in my Google search, but last week we did good role playing games, and it's back in the book. I talked about Bunnies and Burrows, which is based on Watership Down. And if you know what that is, Netflix, it's on Netflix or Google it. I don't care. The point here is, I knew about that one and was like, is there a sillier one? Let me look online. Because my first thought was bunny role playing, but take it seriously. That's pretty hard. But when I did that search, I came across Rahowa, and I was like, "What's this?" So I'm gonna I'm gonna read. Sometime in the near future, a world torn by chaos, anarchy, mayhem, the world devastated by the non-white population growth. Sorry.
You gotta outbreed the darkies.
Ahem.
It's so bad.
The lands of the world have been overrun by despicable hordes, while the noble white man has been reduced to a tiny minority, barely surviving terrors unleashed by heinous forces of the malicious Jew. I am so sorry to absolutely
Every
everyone. I swear I am not the author.
Well, I'll put up the title screen here. This is what this game is.
Uh,
There's the author. There's the guy you can go blame.
oh, wow. Yes, the Reverend Kenneth Molyneux. Reverend, I don't like your religion. Okay, so I found that, and my first thought,
I told Howard to go look this guy up.
I did. But my first thought, as I'm reading through this game when I located it, was, well, this is parody. There's no way. And the more I read, the more sure I became this had to be parody until it got to like a turning point, and I went, oh no, this is straight up. This is what it says it is. This is a
There's
neo-Nazi role-playing game where you eliminate your enemies, which is all of the minorities
there's
in
a
the world.
there's a legit mission statement at the end of the game. I'll put it up on the screen right here.
Oh, okay. We're just gonna skip to the back and skip all the good stuff.
I just want to show you people that
All right, all right, all right.
there's
The primary purpose of racial holy war is to provide entertainment to those loyal to the white race. It is an experience where our dedicated white warriors can do like many of us want to slaughter the foul enemies of our people who are destroying our race. I therefore hope that it does allow our comrades to crush our enemies. The world created in racial holy war is one of strife and mayhem where the white warriors fight to bring about the glorious white empire. If the laws of this realm do not conform to the taste of some, they can obviously change them. Someone might not like this or that rule, so change or get rid of this or that rule.
Oh well,
The important aspect is to have fun.
at least it's telling you like, yeah, just have fun. Like that's the main point of the game, right? Have fun.
I think that allows for some variation because in here there are 5 enemies depicted, and they forgot to mention like the gay. They've nowhere in
Oh
there remembered
yeah,
to call him an enemy. So if you don't like that he's not one of the 5, you can just pencil that right on
pencil
in.
it in here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Would you like to discuss some of the enemies? I got
Yes,
graphics.
yes, and now I'm a little afraid. I'm hoping you mean that they're just words taken from the thing. And
Yo,
that
yeah,
there's
it's just you don't. I wouldn't.
yeah.
I wouldn't like. Okay,
No, don't even type these in as search terms.
so
All right,
these are just copied and pasted. We didn't write this. This is not. So don't blame me.
all right. So the last section before his conclusion with his statement is what the followers of Dungeons and Dragons would call the Monster Manual. That part of that book of D&D that tells you who all the things that you're going to fight are. Um, the first one is an N word, and it's not ninja, but I'm going to say ninja.
They're ninjas.
Or ninjas. Because they're broken. Each enemy is broken into 5 categories, and it's just basically like a character in D&D is of different levels. They have 5 levels of difficulty. The basic level is the smelly ninja, followed by the level 2, which would be the stupid ninja, then the retarded ninja, the repulsive ninja, and then the thick-skulled ninja. And their power is they have a stench that is very overwhelming, and they can deploy that in combat each round.
It's.
And it's all of this is very offensive.
Oh
Moving
yeah.
on.
Oh yeah. This is every racial stereotype is here. Let's just move on. What is this next one? And why are
You have to actually take a moment to appreciate the elementary school level of insult here.
yes
The latrino.
the tree?
It doesn't have anything to do with toilets, although that's the comparison they're making. I will say, from the standpoint of someone who has in fact designed and run games successfully at gaming cons, that the latrino gets a useful skill. The reasoning is terrible. Because they are lazy criminal vermin who waste valuable air on Earth that should be reserved for nature's finest. This is verbatim. Due to their history of illegal immigration, they are adept at crossing borders and sneaking around. Therefore, their special attack is known as stealth. They basically they get a surprise round on you. They get to attack first in combat. It's like they get a huge bonus to initiative. They're going first.
I think we should add, since we get to add whatever rule we want, we should say that they get like some sort of disadvantage against walls.
Well, to be fair, this was written before the Trump presidency.
Of course.
The next option is a sand
Ninja.
Ninja with that word that I'm not going to say. Which come in the 5 categories of disgusting, aberrant, camel riding, and thieving sand ninjas.
Don't forget the suicidal.
Did I skip one?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Suicidal is the 5th and final hardest level.
Yeah.
But all of them have the exact same attack, which is they run at you and explode, which automatically kills them, and then the white warrior suffers damage.
All right, gotta move on, man. We're running out of time.
All right. I'll try and hurry this up. But, I don't want to say this one either. Rhymes with cook, starts with a G.
The cooks.
The cooks. They are timid, annoying, asinine, moronic, and communist cooks. But they don't cook. No, they're masters of hand-to-hand combat because of Kung Fu, which is kind of cool, except they refuse to even acknowledge their ability to have developed this as a part of their culture. They took it an extra step. They wrote, From watching fake martial arts movies, the cooks have acquired an increased proficiency in hand-to-hand fighting.
Wait, how did they make martial?
It,
What's a real
they
martial
can't
art?
give them they can't give them credit for inventing martial arts because that would be credit to a minority, and clearly anything of use came from white people.
They're they're fake martial arts movies. So a real martial arts movie would be Van
Apparently, they're
Damme.
super good fakes because these guys can become masters of martial arts. And again, as someone who's designed games, the way their power works is for each level you give them, they get an extra attack. So if it's level 1, that's one extra attack. All
Wow.
the way to level 5, who's beaten you 6 times every round. The communist cook is the worst cook of all. You are going down. You can't defeat that because he'll make you a nice meal. He's quite the chef. That communist.
Perhaps they're the superior race.
They would be, except for the ultimate weapon. They're the ultimate enemy of the white people.
The
Rhymes with
bicycles.
kites.
Yeah, the bicycles. The bicycle people.
Oh, okay. Rhymes with bike.
Yeah.
Kite. Depending on how you look at it. Somewhere between bike and kite. You figure it out. The Hebrew people, who are known as slimy or lying or greedy or perverted or the worst, they're perfidious. And again, that tells you that the fact that he used the word perfidious means that the guy who wrote this had some level of education. He's well read. He's just filled with hate. Perfidious, if you don't know, just means that I make a deal with you to hope that you will keep up your end. The whole time, though, I fully expect not to keep up my end. Which doesn't seem to work, though, because their power is basically to bribe. And during combat, they can spend 50 credits to throw money at you. And then you gain 50 credits, but lose your turn as you go to pick them up. Which means he wasn't perfidious. He completely came through on his end and gave you the money.
You didn't have to pick it up. What's more important? The money,
well, but you did,
or your racial purity?
That's how the game works.
You're not. You can't. You can't defend against that. There's no defense.
Hey, it's money, man. I'm just gonna say that in a time when we have been reduced to the smallest population and we're overrun by our enemies, money's probably tight. Maybe you can't defend against that. There are, from the genre described and the world created by this, the game seemingly indefensible. It's terrible. But I was able to find a couple of gems in here from a game designer standpoint to say, all right.
They do walk you through the game. Like, look at this example.
Oh, God, no. I'm not going to look at that. Off the screen.
Okay, I'm getting it off the screen. Okay, what's the redeeming quality of this
Hitler.
shit pile?
Okay, so yes, they did use Hitler as an example of a guy with a high charisma. And I guess he was.
What possible redeeming quality can this game have?
All right, so when you're designing a game, if there are certain things you want to express to make the game flow the way you want it to, then you have to find a way to include it in the rules, which make it always come out. In this case, the designer of the game imagined a game where his players were playing white holy warriors that were shooting people that were of other races. So when you take a level, whatever gun you've been using for the majority of the time during that level, you level your ability automatically with that type of gun. So from a game designer standpoint, if that's the game you're looking to create, I mean, if we change the races to orcs and dwarves and elves and otherwise having a post-apocalyptic world where these fantasy races are murdering all humans, then I don't have a problem saying let's gun them down and try and survive. Sure, whatever. They're not real things. And they can have the same powers.
Why is racism so just like everybody's racist in a fantasy game for some reason? I don't get that. Why do elves hate dwarves and just because they're a dwarf and that's an elf?
I don't know, but maybe that's a social commentary on the fact that we're acknowledging that people that grew up in different cultures naturally want to believe that their culture is the right one and perfect one, and therefore can't accept a different one.
Look,
But moving on from all that,
a lot of
the
people didn't like Bright on Netflix, but I thought that movie was pretty good.
but what I'm trying to say is, as a game designer, this guy created a game that he wanted to be about shooting other people, and he found a way to make you not only have to shoot other people, but as you role play, but you'll probably find a signature weapon style pretty quick when you want to continuously level with the same one to get the bonuses. And signature weapons, I think, make characters more interesting. I mean, the orc that always hits people with his big axe, or the dwarf with his hammer. These are things that I love, and I love to see. And if you're playing World of Warcraft and you get a weapon with better stats, you immediately discard the one you have for the next one. Signature weapons are awesome. They add to the character flavor. So I'm going to give him credit that he created a game
Little
that followed the vision that he wanted accurately from a game designer standpoint. If I were helping him make this horribly racist, evil neo-Nazi
You
game,
know, no one's
I
helping
would
anybody. We're
say,
not.
good job.
No, good job. No, I disagree. No,
Hey,
9.
goal achieved. I'm not saying the goal was good. I'm just saying it was achieved.
Okay, we're going to end the show with a segment we like to call Back to the Book, where we talk about things you might not know about role playing games, but we all learned something terrible today already. So we're going to keep the trend going with something you probably already know. He printed it out. He wasted ink and paper on this, people.
Hey, it was at my work. It wasn't my ink and paper.
He stole ink and paper for the people.
Just
It's
like
a
a
double
minority.
crime. So we're going to talk about old Dungeons and Dragon magical item that no longer, it's been taken out of 5th edition. It's not in the game anymore. And that is the girdle of masculinity, femininity. You put it on and it reverses your sex, your gender. If you were a man, you're now a woman. So
Is
it
that
doesn't
really
reverse
not
your
in the game
gender.
anymore?
It doesn't reverse your gender, it just reverses your sex, right? Because gender is how you identify yourself. So if you become a woman, you'd still think of yourself as a man.
You're saying it'll reverse your gender, but not your gender identity, sir.
Exactly.
All right, so I didn't know it didn't exist anymore. I just assumed it was still around. It's always been around.
That's
I guess
gone.
they
I
got
couldn't
rid
find it in the
of it.
book. I looked it up online. There's no 5th edition. All the 5th edition rules are homebrewed. Yeah, this thing they took out because
Well,
it's problematic.
there's not a lot to homebrew. It reverses your gender. It's a cursed item. You can't take it off. Somebody has to press remove curse, and then it falls right off you.
Yeah.
That
So
the mechanics were pretty simple.
so a couple things wrong about this is, yeah, first it's inflicted on a person and nobody wants, I've seen very few people want to actually roleplay this. Either they give up on their character or they just don't roleplay it until they get the remove curse done. Right? You were saying that earlier, right?
Yeah, that's that. I guess for me, I never had any super bad experience with it, but I do know that there are, because I personally was just like, oh, well, this is an annoying change to my body. I need to get this magic item off, and I just kind of dealt with it. I guess maybe, to be fair, I was much younger when I played this. This is the second edition. Last time I got hit with this thing. Um, I didn't. I probably didn't roleplay the sheer horror of having your body changed against something against that you yourself would not want, which is something that trans people have to really go through. Maybe why it's removed. I think I just kind of was like, oh well, that's annoying, but it doesn't mechanically change my character. I guess it doesn't matter. I'll get this removed next time I see a priest.
Yeah. Hey, that's
No
a good
big deal.
that's a good thing though. If you want to put it in your game, you can demonstrate the horror of feeling like you're in the wrong body, that your body should be a different sex than it is. Build some
And
empathy, people.
truly, and like I say, I didn't roleplay it well, but again, I was a teenager It was second edition, which happened, I believe, shortly after the dinosaurs, but before the cars. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
anyways, we're way over time. Thanks for watching this show, Howard. Thanks for joining us and talking about this terrible, terrible subject. Um, we'll see you next week for a live show. Leave a comment below, like us, subscribe us, all of those wonderful things. And remember, there's no level cap on life, so never stop gaining experience.